A quiet family retreat turns into a storm of secrets and betrayal when the line between loyalty and desire blurs. Will their actions unravel everything they hold dear or expose truths no one was ready to face? Arthur Hathaway, a towering figure in the world of real estate, is a man driven by ambition and appearances. At 52, his life seems perfect, an empire built from the ground up, a sprawling mansion that screams success, and a family that looks pristine from the outside. But perfection, as it often turns out, is just a facade. Claire Hathaway, Arthur's 38-year-old second wife, knows this better than anyone. Once a successful corporate lawyer, Claire gave up her career to become the dutiful wife Arthur needed for his carefully curated image. Their marriage, however, is far from what fairy tales promise. It's cold, transactional, and suffocating. Claire's days are filled with silent dinners, forced smiles, and the ever-present reminder that she's just another piece of Arthur's puzzle, a beautiful one, but replaceable nonetheless. Adding to the complexity is Elliot Hathaway, Arthur's 22-year-old son from his first marriage. A budding musician with a rebellious streak, Elliot has never hidden his disdain for Claire. To him, she's the intruder who stepped into his mother's shoes far too soon. Their interactions are laced with passive-aggressive comments, each exchange sharpening the edges of their already strained relationship. When Arthur proposes a family retreat to a luxurious mountain lodge, it seems like just another stage for his perfect family charade. Claire, hesitant but weary, agrees more out of habit than any hope of repairing their strained bonds. Elliot tags along reluctantly, his guitar slung over his shoulder like a shield. The trip is meant to be a getaway, a chance for bonding, but as the family packs their bags, each of them carries their own hidden baggage, heavy with unresolved emotions and unspoken truths. What none of them realize is that this seemingly innocent trip will be the spark that ignites a fire none of them are prepared to face. The Hathaway family arrives at the lodge just as the sun dips behind the mountains, casting a golden glow over the snowy peaks. The air is crisp, the kind that bites at your skin and forces you to breathe deeper. For a brief moment, Claire allows herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, this trip could be different. But reality has other plans. At the check-in desk, a clerical error disrupts Arthur's carefully laid plans. Instead of 3 rooms, only 2 are available. Arthur's solution is swift and indifferent. "Claire, you'll share with Elliot," he says, as if it's the most logical decision. Claire's stomach tightens, and Elliot's sharp intake of breath says it all. Elliot glares at his father but doesn't argue. Instead, he grabs his keycard and heads to the room, leaving Claire to trail behind him in uneasy silence. The room is small, with a single window overlooking the frosted treetops. Claire instinctively claims the bed furthest from the door, while Elliot dumps his bag on the other. The tension is palpable, an unspoken battle line drawn between them. Claire busies herself unpacking, her back turned to Elliot, who sits on his bed strumming his guitar in defiance. His notes are sharp, almost mocking. "You don't have to try so hard," Elliot finally says, breaking the silence. Claire looks up, puzzled, at what she asks cautiously. "At pretending you're one of us." His words are cutting, but beneath the sarcasm, there's a flicker of vulnerability. Claire wants to snap back, to defend herself, but the weight of his words holds her tongue. Instead, she looks out the window, the snowy landscape blurring as her mind races. Neither of them knows it yet, but this forced proximity is the beginning of something they can't undo. Night settles over the lodge, wrapping it in a heavy silence broken only by the distant howl of the wind. Claire lies on one side of the room, her mind swirling with doubts and frustrations. Across the room, Elliot strums his guitar softly, his fingers dancing over the strings in a melancholic tune. The music stirs something in Claire, a sadness she's long ignored. "Could you stop that?" she finally says, her voice sharper than intended. Elliot pauses, looking at her with a mixture of annoyance and curiosity. "It's the only thing that makes this place bearable," he mutters. Something in his tone catches her off guard. For the first time, she hears more than anger, she hears pain. Against her better judgment, she sits up. "What do you mean?" she asks cautiously. Elliot hesitates, then sighs. This isn't a retreat. It's a stage for my father's ego. You know that, right? His words are blunt, but they carry a truth that Claire can't deny. She nods, surprising herself. I know, she admits, her voice softer now. But it's the role I signed up for. Elliot raises an eyebrow. Did you really? Or did he just make you think you had no other choice? His question lingers in the air, heavy and loaded. Claire is taken aback by his insight. For years she's been going through the motions, convincing herself that this life was enough. Now, with Elliot's words cutting through her defenses, she feels exposed. The conversation shifts, slowly peeling back layers of resentment and misunderstanding. Elliot talks about his mother, about the shadow she left behind and the impossibility of living up to Arthur's expectations. Claire shares her own struggles, how she traded her career for a marriage that feels more like a contract. For the first time, they see each other not as adversaries, but as two people trapped in Arthur's orbit, struggling to find their footing. The walls between them begin to crumble, and in their shared vulnerability, a connection forms, one that feels both comforting and dangerous. The hours slip away unnoticed. What began as a tentative conversation deepens into something neither of them expected. Elliot's guarded demeanor softens, and Claire finds herself laughing, really laughing for the first time in months. The stark divide between stepmother and stepson fades, replaced by two souls yearning for understanding. But vulnerability can be a double-edged sword. As the night stretches on, the room feels smaller, the air heavier. A moment passes between them, silent, electric. It's a fleeting glance, a hesitation, but it's enough to change everything. Before either of them can stop it, they cross a line. It's a single moment, a touch, a closeness that neither of them dares to define. When it's over, the weight of what's happened crashes down on them like an avalanche. Claire retreats to her side of the room, her heart pounding in her chest. Elliot doesn't say a word. The silence is deafening, filled with unspoken questions and regrets. As the first rays of dawn creep through the window, Claire lies awake, staring at the ceiling. She knows they can never go back to the way things were. What's done cannot be undone. The sun rises, casting golden light across the snow-covered lodge, but the warmth does nothing to thaw the frost in the air between Claire and Elliot. They go about their morning routines in strained silence, careful to avoid eye contact. Arthur, oblivious as always, joins them for breakfast, chatting about his plans for the day. We'll need to look presentable tonight, he says with a grin. The Hendersons are stopping by for dinner. Claire forces a smile, her hands trembling as she sips her coffee. Elliot stares out the window, his jaw tight. The weight of their shared secret presses down on them, growing heavier with each passing minute. After breakfast, Elliot disappears, retreating to the lodge's hiking trails. Claire watches him leave, torn between guilt and an inexplicable longing. She knows she should be relieved to have the space, but his absence only amplifies her unease. As the day drags on, the lodge feels suffocating. Claire busies herself with small tasks, trying to keep her mind occupied, but every quiet moment brings her back to the night before. She can still feel the weight of Elliot's gaze, the way his words cut through her defenses. When Elliot finally returns, his face flushed from the cold, their eyes meet for the briefest moment. It's enough to confirm what they both fear: the connection they shared isn't something they can ignore. Arthur, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath his roof, continues to play the role of doting husband and father. But for Claire and Elliot, the retreat has become a prison, one where every glance, every word, is a reminder of the line they crossed and the consequences they must now face. The tension in the lodge becomes unbearable, thick like the cold mountain air. Claire wakes up one morning to an unfamiliar quiet. Elliot's guitar, usually a source of background noise, is conspicuously silent. She glances at his bed, neatly made, as if untouched. Her stomach sinks. She spots a folded note on the nightstand and hesitates before picking it up. The handwriting is hurried, as if written in haste. I need space to think. Don't worry about me. Claire's hands tremble as she reads it again and again. The words blurring together, questions flood her mind. Did he leave because of her? Did he regret the connection they shared? Or was it something deeper, a desperate attempt to escape the suffocating expectations of his father? Arthur barely notices Elliot's absence when Claire brings it up. He's probably sulking somewhere, he says dismissively, his attention fixed on his phone. He always runs off when things don't go his way. But Claire knows better. This isn't just another one of Elliot's rebellious escapades. There's a finality to his note that unnerves her. She wants to go after him, to find him and make sure he's safe, but she knows she can't explain her concern without exposing the truth. The rest of the day passes in a haze. Claire roams the lodge, her thoughts consumed by Elliot's sudden departure. She recalls their conversations, his frustration with his father, his vulnerability in those rare, unguarded moments. Guilt gnaws at her, a relentless whisper reminding her that she may have driven him away. As night falls, the emptiness left by Elliot's absence feels suffocating. Claire stares out the window, the snow-covered mountains eerily still. Somewhere out there, Elliot is alone, grappling with the same emotions that are tearing her apart. The Hathaway family returns home, but the silence Elliot left behind follows them like a shadow. The sprawling mansion feels colder, its grand rooms echoing with an emptiness Claire can't ignore. Arthur, predictably, moves on without a second thought, throwing himself into work and his endless pursuit of success. For Claire, however, life has come to a standstill. She moves through the days like a ghost, haunted by memories of the trip. Every corner of the house holds a reminder of Elliot, his unfinished compositions in the music room, his favorite chair by the window, the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the hallways. She avoids the music room entirely, unable to face the sight of his guitar propped against the wall. It feels like a monument to her guilt, a symbol of the line she crossed and the trust she betrayed. Arthur, as usual, remains oblivious to her turmoil. He chalks up her mood to post-vacation blues, brushing off her quietness with a pat on the shoulder and a distracted, "You'll feel better soon." But Claire knows she won't. Not until she confronts the truth. The guilt eats away at her, a constant weight pressing down on her chest. She replays the moments leading up to Elliot's departure, wondering if there was something she could have done to stop him. The silence in the house grows deafening. With Elliot gone, the strained relationship between Claire and Arthur becomes even more apparent. Conversations are curt, meals are eaten in awkward silence, and the emotional distance between them feels insurmountable. One evening, unable to bear it any longer, Claire ventures into the music room. She sits at the piano, her fingers hovering over the keys. A single note rings out, breaking the silence, and the sound triggers a flood of emotions. Tears stream down her face as she finally allows herself to feel the weight of her choices. In that moment, she knows she can't keep pretending. The life she's been living, the choices she's made, they're all unraveling, and the fallout is only just beginning. A week after Elliot's departure, Claire discovers something that shatters the fragile stability she's been clinging to. Cleaning the study, one of Arthur's sacred spaces she usually avoids, she stumbles across an envelope tucked inside one of the desk drawers. The handwriting on the front stops her cold. It's Elliot's. Her hands tremble as she opens it, revealing a letter addressed to Arthur. It's raw, emotional, and filled with a bitterness Elliot has never dared to voice aloud. "Father, you've built an empire, but at what cost? You've demanded perfection from everyone around you, but you can't see how imperfect you are. Claire deserves better than to be another piece of your puzzle. And I can't live under your shadow anymore. I'm leaving, not because of her, but because of you. If you ever cared about me, let me go." Claire's heart pounds as she reads the letter again. Elliot's words are a gut punch, not only to Arthur but to her as well. He doesn't mention their shared moment explicitly, but his decision to leave feels irrevocably tied to what happened between them. That evening, Claire hands Arthur the letter during dinner. His reaction is immediate. His face flushes with anger, and he throws the letter down onto the table. "Ungrateful brat," he growls. "He thinks he can blame me for his failures." Claire tries to defend Elliot, but Arthur cuts her off, dismissing her concern. He'll come crawling back when he realizes how much he needs me. But Claire knows better. This isn't a tantrum or a rebellious phase. Elliot is gone, and it's because of Arthur and, in part, because of her. The confrontation between Claire and Arthur is inevitable. The letter serves as a catalyst, bringing years of resentment and unspoken truths to the surface. One evening, as Arthur rants about Elliot's disrespect, Claire snaps. "Do you even hear yourself?" she shouts, her voice trembling. "You've treated everyone around you like pawns in your game. Elliot left because he couldn't stand living under your control. And I don't even know who I am anymore because of you." Arthur stares at her, stunned into silence for the first time in years. "What are you saying?" he asks, his voice low and dangerous. Claire hesitates, teetering on the edge of a confession. But she knows the truth about her connection with Elliot would destroy them both. Instead, she chooses her words carefully. "I'm saying that this family is broken, Arthur, and you're too blinded by your ambition to see it." The argument escalates, each word driving a deeper wedge between them. Arthur accuses Claire of being ungrateful, of failing to play her role as his wife. Claire fires back, accusing him of suffocating everyone around him. By the end of the night, Claire is left alone in the bedroom, staring at the empty space where Arthur used to sleep. The house feels colder than ever, and for the first time, she allows herself to consider what life might look like without him. Claire's breaking point comes when she receives an unexpected call from Elliot. His voice is calm, but there's a sadness that pierces through the line. He tells her he's safe, but doesn't plan on coming back anytime soon. "I need to figure out who I am, away from him, away from all of it," he says. His words resonate deeply with Claire. She realizes she's been living her life in the shadow of Arthur's expectations, much like Elliot. For years, she's convinced herself that this was the life she chose, but now she sees it for what it is, a cage. The next morning, she packs a bag and writes a letter to Arthur. It's not a plea or an explanation, but a simple statement: "I'm leaving to find myself again. Don't come after me." As she drives away from the mansion, Claire feels a strange mix of fear and relief. She doesn't know where she's going or what the future holds, but for the first time in years, she feels free. The story ends with a reflection. Claire and Elliot may be on separate paths, but they share a common goal: to rebuild their lives and discover who they truly are. The camera fades to black as Claire's car disappears down the winding road, a symbol of new beginnings. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. What would you have done in Claire's shoes? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more gripping tales like this one. See you in the next video.